The story begins with a woman desperately begging to be released. She has green hair and is holding the lifeless body of a blue-haired woman in her arms. She demands to know why a man in a black suit has done this to them, accusing him of driving the blue-haired woman to take her own life. She asks if he feels satisfied now. The man calmly responds that they already know the reason they were imprisoned, and that everything that happened was the result of their own choices. When she insists they did nothing wrong, he cuts her off, declaring that everything is already over. This is his sixth regression, and once again, he has failed to prevent the end of the world. As dragons descend and destroy the city, the man, Ujate, reflects that listening to her would have changed nothing. A dragon spots him on a rooftop and breathes fire, but Ujata shows no regret. Drawing his formless SS-rank sword, he realizes that the failures and experiences gained across repeated regressions are what truly shaped him. Moving faster than the eye can follow, he charges through the battlefield, leaping over dragons and cutting them down one by one. Yet no matter how many he kills, the horde never ends. Earth is ultimately labeled with the status abnormality known as Apocalypse, marking humanity's defeat. Still, the Authority Grand Clock X activates, rewinding time once more. As the world glows yellow and resets, Ujate closes his eyes, believing his struggle was not completely meaningless. The world begins again. The scene shifts to a busy modern city, where a strange rift resembling a door appears in the middle of the street. Curious civilians gather around it, debating whether to call the police. A woman senses danger and urges her companion to leave, but he dismisses her fears and decides to take a photo instead. With his back turned, he fails to notice monsters emerging from the rift. The woman drops her phone in terror as the crowd scatters, marking the beginning of a global catastrophe. In the 21st century, gates open across the world, unleashing monsters and nearly extinguishing humanity. However, a new hope emerges, ushering in an era called the New Genesis. Talented young hunters from around the globe are gathered and trained in an artificial land known as Heitling, leading to the creation of the World Academy City, Lair. Even Ujate, now regressing for the 7th time, heads toward Lair. The focus then shifts to a hostage situation where a man named Joe Hoshik, whose arm has transformed into a blade, threatens to kill a woman unless authorities back off. As police surround him, Hoshik rants in desperation, believing he has nothing left to lose. Suddenly, Guy appears behind him without warning. Startled, Hoshik attacks, but Guy effortlessly overpowers him, slamming him into the ground and ending the standoff. Guy is revealed to be a police officer from the Lair Metropolitan Police Station. Back at the station, officers discuss Hoshik's capture and praise Guy's performance, noting how much he has changed. Despite the familiar setting, Guy feels like a stranger there. Because of his repeated regressions, this is the first time he has actually returned to his job. The reason Guy abandoned a normal life and chose to regress again and again is revealed to be the hatchlings, specifically the deaths of baby dragons. In the world of Ascalifa, dragon hatchlings come to Earth to experience happiness, but some are driven mad by violence, hatred, or failure, eventually dying by accident or suicide. When this happens, the adult dragons retaliate against humanity in fury. Despite becoming overwhelmingly strong through countless regressions, Guy realizes he cannot save the world alone. This time, he decides to change his approach. After work, a female officer invites him to dinner, but he declines, stating that he is heading to Europe. In Florence, Italy, a green-haired young woman is seen playing with children and placing flower crowns on them. After the children leave, a man approaches her from behind. He tells her she must come with him. The woman, who possesses a Babel-ranked ability allowing her to understand languages freely, asks why he sought her out. Guy confirms that he knows exactly who she is. Though she jokes about knowing his name, she admits she has no idea who he really is, only that he is incredibly strong and doesn't belong in that peaceful place. When she asks if he plans to kill her, he denies it. When she suggests kidnapping instead, he says it's close enough. Despite her teasing, Guy makes his intentions clear. He wants to protect her from the dangerous future ahead, and if she refuses to cooperate, he will not hesitate to use force. Ujate already knew that members of the Green Dragon clan possessed eyes that could perceive providence itself. Compared to other dragon clans, they were sharper, more intuitive, and quicker to understand the flow of events. Because of that, he told the green-haired hatchling to make her decision carefully. She understood immediately. If she behaved and listened quietly, he would treat her kindly. When she asked him to confirm it, he answered without hesitation. She agreed, knowing she had no real choice, but insisted that he treat her like a guest rather than a prisoner. She even held out her pinky to seal the promise. Though she appeared calm, her hand was trembling slightly, and Ujate noticed it. Still, he accepted the pinky promise. Later, at his home, the green hatchling woke up and stepped out to see if he was awake. She found him sitting on the sofa, speaking to a dark mist hovering nearby. He calmly told it to go and carry out its orders, assuring it that he would be fine. The mist was revealed to be the shadow of the Grand Duke, an SS rank ability that created a clone capable of using half of the original body's power. As the mist solidified, it became clear that the clone looked exactly like him. The clone walked past the green hatchling, and she greeted it politely, puzzled by how identical the two were. Yujate told her not to worry about it, explaining that the clone would go to work in his place. When she asked if he no longer worked himself, he explained that the clone was still part of him, meaning he technically was working. More importantly, he needed to stay by her side. She accepted the explanation and sat beside him, suggesting they eat breakfast together. She pointed out that he had skipped dinner the night before and encouraged him to eat. He dismissed it, saying he was fine, but she found it strange to eat alone while the homeowner did not. When he asked whether dragons even needed regular meals, she explained that it wasn't about survival. Eating good food made her happy and gave her energy. She invited him to go grocery shopping with her. Though he refused again, she became determined to show him the importance of breakfast. At the mall, people openly stared at them. Men, women, children, everyone was drawn to the unusual pair. Once shopping was done, Yujate noticed she had bought far more than necessary. She explained that the kitchen was completely empty, lacking even basic utensils, and since she planned to cook regularly, they needed proper supplies. Eager to cook, she wanted to head straight home, but Yujate stopped her and suggested eating outside instead. He explained that there were places they needed to visit first, and she had to come along. Realizing how late it had gotten, she apologized, admitting that shopping after such a long time had been fun. When she asked where they were going, he told her that they were preparing things she would need to live there properly. They stopped by several places, including a workshop run by a man with a mechanical eye who made her identification. When the man made an inappropriate comment about her appearance, Yujate threatened him coldly, instantly shutting him up. After that, they visited a bank and a jewelry store, where she bought a multifunctional watch. By the time they finished, dusk had already fallen. Holding her new ID card, she found the experience strange. It wasn't just an ID, it was her first bank account and her first personal device as well. This made Yujate wonder how she had managed to live on Earth until now. Her surname was taken from his, and her given name was chosen simply. He explained that it was inspired by the 4 seasons, representing the 4 dragon clans. Her name meant spring. She loved it immediately, finding it beautiful and full of life. She admitted that he was a little scary. Her instincts warned her that he was dangerous, yet she didn't believe he was a bad person. When he asked how she could be sure after knowing him for only a day, she replied that her intuition surpassed everyone else's because she was from the Green Dragon clan. She smiled at him and asked if it was all right for her to keep watching him a little longer. It was the first time Yujate had ever seen a green dragon smile like that in any of his regressions. She urged him to hurry home so she could cook dinner for him. As he looked at the cherry blossoms outside, he began to think that this new beginning might not be so bad after all. Elsewhere, in a desolate region of Africa, a short, red-haired woman effortlessly overpowered a military man who tried to threaten her. When he insulted her and warned her of retaliation, she responded by kicking him in the face. After checking if he was dead, she casually counted the fight as her 199th victory. Excited for her next opponent, she searched for a new challenge. News spread across South Africa, filled with reports of conflict, destruction, and casualties. Among the headlines was mention of a mysterious teenage girl known as the Night Hunter. Realizing what this meant, Yujate understood it was time to act. Back at home, Bom knocked on his office door and announced that dinner was ready. She served him an unsettling dish made of dark, sticky rice with a fish protruding from it. Wary, he hesitated as she excitedly explained that it was inspired by something she had seen in the United Kingdom and believed Koreans would enjoy it. As he stared at the plate, he informed her that he planned to retrieve the red dragon the next day. She warned him that the red hatchling would not come willingly. Unlike her, the red dragons loved violence and domination, and they despised submission more than death. Yujate realized that force had been a mistake in previous regressions. If they did not bring the red dragon in soon, she would be killed by someone hunting her. He asked Bom to come with him so they could resolve things peacefully. Surprised, she admitted that it was interesting to see him ask for help. She agreed, not wanting the red dragon to die either, but she set one condition. He had to finish the meal she prepared. As he fell silent and put down his spoon, he realized she had cornered him perfectly. Meanwhile, in a desert city littered with corpses, the red hatchling crushed a man's throat and complained about how weak everyone was. Frustrated that her 200th victory felt meaningless, she concluded that there were no worthy opponents left in Africa. Hearing that the Green Dragon was in Europe, she decided to head there next. Hidden among the ruins, elite sand forces watched helplessly, already defeated by her overwhelming power. The soldiers watching from the ruins warned each other not to underestimate her. She might look like a girl, but she was a monster forged through endless battles. They knew they stood no chance and desperately hoped reinforcements would arrive in time. Before they could move, she appeared above them, calmly asking what they were whispering about. Panic spread instantly. She told them it was already too late. Just as she was about to strike, a blinding yellow light surged in from afar and slammed into her, throwing her backward. The mana behind the attack was overwhelming. She tightened her grip on her sword and cleaved the energy apart, shocking the soldiers who watched her disperse such power so easily. That single act confirmed what they already feared. She truly was a monster. A man stepped forward, and the soldiers felt a wave of relief. His name was Javier Karma, an 8th-rank superhuman affiliated with the African Union. After assessing the situation and witnessing the Knight of Hunter's strength firsthand, he ordered the wounded to retreat. The red-haired girl smiled, impressed. The previous attack had been heavy, and now she realized he was the one in charge. She teased him, saying he was younger than she expected and joking that people always underestimated her because of her appearance. That was why she used to wear a mask. Without it, no one ever fought her seriously. Javier acknowledged the gap in their strength, impressed that she still refused to surrender. She was the type who would rather die fighting than live by kneeling. Without hesitation, she charged at him, striking relentlessly until she found an opening. She launched a crude but deadly move, only to freeze when he showed no reaction at all. That alone told Javier everything. She had never faced someone truly stronger than herself. He regretted that such talent was being wasted, but decided the fight would end there. He swung his sword, forcing her into a desperate dodge.
Activate the Sword of Holy Aura.
Realizing she couldn't escape, she crossed her arms and braced herself. When the blade came down, even the surrounding walls were sliced apart. The impact sent her flying, yet Javier noticed that she had reinforced her arms at the last instant to survive the blow. Even so, he knew he needed to increase his output. When the dust settled, she was gone. Javier briefly assumed she had fled, but the truth was different. Bomb had pulled her away and hidden her, covering the red dragon's mouth to keep her quiet. Bomb revealed herself. Shocked, Red demanded to know why she was there. Bomb explained that she had come because she heard Red was in danger. Red snapped back, saying she didn't need saving and that Bomb had no right to interfere. She insisted she would fight until the very end. Bomb responded calmly, telling her that the fun ended once someone died. When Red questioned her, Bomb explained that her death wouldn't just affect herself. She knew Red didn't want their freedom on Earth to end either. Bomb asked her to cooperate so they could stay. As she healed Red's wounds, Red was left speechless. Running away wasn't an option. Javier was too strong and would catch them instantly. Bomb reassured her, saying someone else would handle him. Curious, Red asked who. That was when Bomb revealed she hadn't come alone. Yujate appeared behind Javier. Confused, Javier demanded to know who he was. Yujate sighed and answered simply that he was a chaperone. Elsewhere, a golden-haired woman sensed the presence of a green dragon nearby and curiously questioned Yujate, smiling as she tried to confirm whether he was a good man. Back on the battlefield, Javier scoffed at the idea. A chaperone made no sense, especially for someone like the Night Hunter. Red whispered to Bomb, asking if this was the man she had mentioned before. Bomb ordered her to stay back, warning that it was dangerous. Yujate found the situation too complicated to explain and suggested they end things there. Javier took offense. He had arrived to enforce the law, and he wasn't about to back down. Yujate pointed out that the girl hadn't killed anyone. That only angered Javier further. He refused to let them walk away, declaring that the area fell under his jurisdiction as a San investigator. He would arrest both the girl and her so-called chaperone. He activated his power. Golden energy erupted skyward, swirling violently as if punching through the heavens. The ground shattered beneath his feet as he charged forward, wrapped in explosive mana. Rocks flew, the air screamed, and the battlefield was swallowed in chaos. When the dust finally settled, Javier stood confidently at the center, certain that no chaperone could survive such an attack. Then a voice spoke behind him. Yujate sounded irritated. He remarked that it was disappointing for an 8th-rank superhuman to be this stiff and predictable. Javier spun around in shock, unable to comprehend when Yujate had moved behind him. He tried to activate his sword again, but it was already too late. Something struck first. In a single instant, his arm was severed. Blood erupted before his mind could even register the pain. Yujate landed calmly nearby and told him to listen carefully. Today was the unluckiest day of his life. While escorting a girl, he had encountered an unforeseen monster and failed to respond properly, resulting in catastrophic injuries. Because of that, he had lost track of his targets. As Yujate grabbed his head and raised his sword, he delivered his final instruction. Forget everything. Blood sprayed as the boy screamed in agony. Inside Sun, healing-type superhumans were always nearby. Lost limbs, shattered bones, even gouged-out eyes could be restored without much trouble. But the terror carved into his mind would never fade. Fear lingered far longer than any wound. Yujate understood that well, and he used it without hesitation. Even the hatchling dragon fighter known as Nighty Hunter was not immune. Red, still shaken, asked what that thing had been. Green corrected her calmly. It wasn't a monster. It was a human. Red scoffed, saying that if something like that was human, then she must be nothing more than a lizard. Jai stepped in and addressed the red hatchling directly. From now on, she would live in his house, under his protection. She would have freedom, support, and anything she needed. He was about to say more, but Green interrupted. Noticing that Red was still in shock, she decided to calm her down first and explain everything later. Red stiffened when Green hugged her, clearly uncomfortable. Green simply winked at Jai, leaving him momentarily speechless. He told Red that her name would be Yuya from now on. Green noticed she had grown since the last time they met, but Red snapped back that she wasn't in the mood to joke around. The clone quietly withdrew and reported to the real Yujate that the situation had been handled. Far away, deep within the Amazon rainforest, Yujate stood beside Gold. He praised the clone's performance and told it he would wrap things up there and return soon. He already knew Red was a brute by nature, and convincing her would have been difficult without help. Sending Bomb along had been the right call. Gold asked who he had been talking to. He brushed it off, which only made her think he was strange. She snatched his smartwatch and put it on her wrist, amused. Like most gold dragons who adored attention, she had spent one of her 6 lives basking in fame. But the one who truly outshone all others was the dragon who caused the most destruction. Love could be glamorous, but it always came with a price. Yujate suspected that was why Gold was hiding in the middle of nowhere. Gold was fascinated by the smartwatch. A holographic screen floated in the air, sharp and vivid. She had never seen anything like it before. Yujate asked why she was staying out there when dragons usually came to Earth for entertainment among humans. There was nothing but insects and beasts in the jungle. She was surprised he knew that much. He told her he'd learned it from the green hatchling. That explained why she could smell Green's presence on him. He asked if she was afraid of humans now. Gold admitted she wasn't terrified, but she had lived among them before. Some stared at her strangely. Others followed her. It had been unsettling. He suddenly asked if she liked bread. The question caught her off guard. Dragons didn't need to eat. Without another word, Yujate snapped his fingers and activated the shallowest rank of the void. A subdimension capable of swallowing a city opened briefly, and bread appeared. The smell alone made her perk up. Donuts and blueberry egg tarts followed. She stared in disbelief as he offered them to her so casually. He told her to come with him. Her friends would be there and she would be safe. He encouraged her to enjoy entertainment the way other dragons did. She hesitated, saying her mother had warned her not to follow strangers. He responded by offering macarons. Her eyes sparkled instantly. Not long after, the gold dragon was officially registered in Korea's Pokédex. Back at the high-rise where Yujate lived, Yoram stood on the balcony, looking bored. She scowled when she thought of Javier Yujate and the threat he had made. It irritated her deeply. Green noticed her mood from the living room and grew concerned, but her attention shifted when she heard the door open. Yujate returned, with Gold. Gold claimed she hadn't come just for bread, though she admitted the sausage roll had been incredible, better than anything she'd ever eaten in As Khalifa. She bit into a macaron and froze. Crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside. It tasted like heaven. Green welcomed them home, and Gold rushed over to hug her. Green patted her head, saying she'd grown prettier. Gold admitted she'd missed her. She asked how long Green had been living with him. "Only a few days," Green replied. Then she mentioned that Red was there too and encouraged Gold to greet her. The shadow bowed to Yujate. He praised it briefly and sent it back to work. Red walked in, took one look at Gold, and clicked her tongue. Gold, completely unfazed, greeted her loudly, asking how she'd been. Then she smelled cigarette smoke and immediately started nagging her. Red snapped and clamped a hand over her mouth, warning her to shut up before she ripped her beak out. Gold pouted and called her mean. They gathered in the living room. Yujate asked their ages. Green said she was 20. Gold proudly declared she was 10. Red stayed silent, so Yujate assigned her 16. Gold pointed out that dragons matured faster than humans, so he didn't need to treat them like children. She noticed that he called Red by the name Urim and asked if it was fake. Green explained that he had given it to her and mentioned her own name was Bomb. Gold looked confused. Names were supposed to be sacred, given only after coming-of-age ceremonies. She didn't like how casually they'd received theirs. Then she paused and said her name would be Ga. Yujate corrected her calmly. From now on, she would be Yugal. He pointed at the necklace around her neck and said the name Gul suited it. They were shocked when he identified it as Blue's egg. He already knew it was a polymorph and that it would hatch soon. Gold remarked that he knew far too much for a human. When she asked how, he brushed it off and laid down on one rule. They could enjoy themselves. They could have fun, but they were not allowed to leave the fence. They were not to hide anything from him. Their entertainment would exist under his supervision. Red leaned against her hand, clearly irritated, and made a sarcastic remark without bothering to hide her annoyance. Everyone looked at her. Green immediately jumped up, excited at the idea of exploring nearby. She suggested they go out and get proper identities and supplies. Gold lit up with excitement. Red scoffed, pointing out she didn't even have money. Yujate handed his wallet to Green and told them not to worry about costs. Green asked how much they could spend. He told them to spend whatever they wanted. Minutes later, a stream of transaction alerts flooded the screen. Small purchases at first, then larger ones, until a final warning appeared. Credit limit reached. Yujate stared at the screen in silence. The girls, however, looked thrilled. Gold bought clothes. Red bought a sword. Green returned the wallet, apologizing for overspending. She'd wanted to buy him clothes too, but ran out of credit. He told her it didn't matter. Gold pulled him aside and proudly showed off her new outfit. She was clearly waiting to be praised. He told her it looked good on her. Her face lit up instantly. She thanked him, calling him the best. Nearby, Red watched quietly. Then she stepped forward and casually mentioned that she had bought the same thing too, trying to sound indifferent, even though the jealousy in her posture was obvious. Gold was still buzzing with excitement in the background, eagerly trying on more outfits. She proudly showed off the new sword she bought to replace the one she had lost. Yujate glanced at it and said it was a solid choice. Relieved, she laughed, happy she hadn't wasted her money. Moments later, Gold ran after Red, swinging a shopping bag and announcing that she bought clothes for her too. Red immediately panicked and sprinted away, shouting that she didn't need any of it. The scene descended into pure chaos. Bomb watched quietly and remarked that Yoram wasn't very good at expressing her feelings, but she was still grateful. Hearing that, Yujate felt relieved. Noticing Bomb hadn't bought much for herself, he asked if she got anything. She pointed to a small potted plant resting on the table. She explained that caring for a plant felt comforting, and even if he didn't understand, watching it grow and bloom would become a memory that lasted forever. That reminded her of something else she wanted to ask. Their time on Earth wasn't meant to be limited to food and shopping, so she wondered if there was a way to experience life more fully under his supervision. Yujate replied that there was. He suggested school and showed them the entrance application for Lair Academy City. At the same moment, Yori and Ga peeked around the corner, both visibly startled by the sudden mention of school. The next day, the hatchlings returned home after their interviews. Yoram looked exhausted from how long hers had taken. Bomb noticed Yujate wasn't around, and Ga immediately began spiraling into worry, convinced she would be the only one to fail and get left behind. Yoram snapped at her negativity and joked that someone should just stuff bread into her mouth to shut her up. Ga only grew more dramatic, convinced she'd fail because she ate too much. Yujate finally came home and praised them for their hard work. Ga rushed over and hugged him, crying about how she was sure she failed. He calmly reassured her. When Bomb asked where he had been, he showed them a paper bag he'd gone out to get. The smell alone made Ga's eyes light up. She tried guessing what was inside, hoping for bread or macarons. But Yujate told her it was something she loved even more. That moment cut to her past as a celebrity pop star known as Baby Yellow, appearing on a dinner talk show. While chatting with the host, she was asked about her favorite food. Laughing off rumors that she survived on morning dew, she admitted she was still human and started thinking seriously. Her answer was Korean fried chicken. When it was served, she could barely contain her excitement, certain it would taste incredible. Back in the present, Yoram was confused. How could it be her favorite if she had never eaten it before? Ga brushed that off, declaring it would become her favorite from now on. Red downplayed it as just fried chicken, though even she admitted it smelled good. While everyone prepared to eat, Yujate received a call and stepped away. Bomb asked him to eat with them, but he told them to start without him. The call was from the admissions office. They explained that there had been an issue during Bomb's interview. Confused, Yujate listened as they revealed the truth. Bomb had received a perfect score. The interviewers were so impressed that they directly offered her the role of leading the entrance ceremony. The problem was that she had declined. They asked Yujate if he could convince her to reconsider. He refused immediately, saying her wishes were his wishes as well, and ended the call. Later, Yoram joined him on the balcony and asked if the call was about Bomb. He corrected her on the name, which she complained sounded embarrassing. She then asked why he wanted to send them to Lair in the first place. His answer was simple. He wanted to give them what they wanted. Yoram argued that all she wanted was a good fight and asked if there were strong opponents there. Yujate replied that the strongest young talents in the world were gathered there. When she complained that they were still kids, he reminded her that she was one too. Frustrated, Yoram challenged him, demanding to see how strong he really was if he planned to keep her under his control. He refused, telling her to go inside and eat. That only irritated her further. She called him boring, flipped him off, and then cursed at him before storming away. Ga tried to calm things down by offering her chicken. When Red refused, Ga shoved it into her mouth instead. Red froze, then her eyes sparkled as she realized how good it was. Lair Academy City stood on the island of abundance, Heitling, unlike any other educational institution in the world. It was a school designed to train superhumans blessed with extraordinary abilities. Most of its students were children of powerful families, royal houses, and prodigies, earning the academy constant criticism for its rigid hierarchy. Ga walked through the campus with shining eyes, overwhelmed by how impressive everything looked. Bam followed beside her, quieter but just as observant. They had heard that only the wealthy and elite were accepted, which made Ga wonder if Yuchate was secretly the child of some powerful CEO. Bam admitted that he certainly looked the part. She also expressed relief that all of them had made it in. Ga was thrilled, still surprised she hadn't failed. She then asked where Yujate and Yoram were. Bam explained that Yoram had gone to the Blue Dragon School for practical exams, with Yujat accompanying her as a chaperone. When Ga asked what a chaperone was, Bam explained that adults escorted students to prevent immature superhumans from causing trouble. Ga immediately agreed that Yoram would be dangerous without supervision. Bam added that Yoram's chosen program required duel-based evaluations. Ga wanted to watch, but spectators weren't allowed. She stared blankly, completely confused as to why. Bam glanced around and pointed out that it would be strange for them to walk together anyway. Their appearance alone had already drawn plenty of attention. Meanwhile, at the Blue Dragon School's Kangtian Pavilion, students faced each other in combat, gripping wooden practice weapons as the duels began. The duels all began at the same time, while the chaperones watched from the stands. Guy sat quietly among them, unlike the others who were shouting and cheering with far too much passion. Their voices echoed through the arena, so loud that it began to unsettle the future cadets preparing for their matches. A man soon approached the group and calmly asked them to lower their voices. He explained that while he understood their excitement, their behavior was only increasing the pressure on the students. The chaperones turned to him and asked who he was. Apologizing for not introducing himself earlier, the man revealed that he was Wei Wan, the head professor of the Blue Dragon School. He greeted them politely and said it was a pleasure to meet the chaperones. The atmosphere immediately softened. The chaperones responded warmly, praising his dignified presence. He was known not only for his refined manners, but also for his skill, wealth, and reputation as a war hero. Guy simply observed him in silence, her attention drifting back to the arena as two numbers were announced, numbers 124 and 7. The duelists stepped forward, wooden swords in hand. One of them was Yoram. Guy leaned back slightly, hoping the match would finally be interesting. Yoram's opponent was a tall girl with long blonde hair and sharp blue eyes. Yoram smirked and casually remarked that she would run away if the fight failed to meet her expectations. The spectators began whispering among themselves, debating who would win. One student commented that both girls were beautiful, though he admitted the redhead was more his type. His friend immediately scolded him, reminding him that they were discussing strength, not preferences. Shrugging, the boy answered that Sofia Varova would likely win. Sofia was already part of RIL before arriving here. RIL was Russia's elite hunter task force, infamous for its brutal training methods during the Great War. Their methods were said to be closer to torture than discipline. Sofia's chaperone was shouting uncontrollably from the stands, reminding her that the higher-ups had immense expectations for her. His cheering became so intense that he crossed into restricted territory. Sofia ignored him completely, maintaining her calm expression, though deep down she felt embarrassed. Yoram glanced at him and mocked Sofia, saying her father looked more nervous than she did. She suggested Sofia should surrender and go back to him, calling her a Papa's child before correcting herself to Papa's girl instead. Sofia snapped back, warning Yoram to shut up before she really died. Yoram laughed, clearly entertained, and dared her to try. The watching students felt a chill. They expected nothing less from someone trained by RIL, but they couldn't deny that the redhead standing opposite her felt just as dangerous. The two were ordered to take their positions. Sofia chose to fight barehanded. Yoram held a wooden sword. The match began. Sofia moved first. Her speed startled Yoram, who barely managed to react in time. She caught Sofia's fist and commented that her speed wasn't bad. Then she swung her sword. Sofia ducked under the strike and countered with a kick. Yoram twisted her body at the last second, narrowly avoiding the blow, though the fabric of her clothes tore across her stomach. That irritated her. She had just gotten those clothes. Sophia bounced lightly on her feet and in the blink of an eye, closed the distance again. Yoram evaded her punches and sprinted toward the fence. When she reached it, she ran straight up the structure and launched herself forward. Sophia met her in midair. Yoram came down fast, sword raised, her grin wide with excitement. Sophia blocked the strike with her arms. The impact shattered her bones. She clenched her teeth, forcing herself to endure the pain. Yoram struck again. Once more, Sophia used her arms to block. Yoram landed and immediately turned around, ready to continue. She called Sophia an idiot. Sophia hesitated, clearly shaken by how quickly Yoram had recovered. Yoram lifted her head, her eyes glowing with excitement. She openly taunted Sophia, revealing that she had been holding back the entire time. Now, she was ready to be serious. She rushed forward and struck. The blow was violent and instantaneous. Sophia was sent flying back into the fence, coughing blood as she collapsed. Yoram approached and pointed her sword at her trembling body. Sweat poured down Sophia's face as the match was officially called. Number 124 was declared the winner. Yoram scoffed, mocking Sophia for acting tough when the fight had been effortless. She turned and walked away, her gaze filled with disdain as she looked down on the so-called elites gathered from around the world. A nurse and Sophia's chaperone rushed to her side. The students were stunned. They couldn't believe Sophia had been defeated so easily. Some argued that the fight had looked even at first, while others pointed out that the redhead wasn't injured at all. It became clear that she had been playing with her opponent from the start. Whispers spread quickly. Some students questioned whether Sophia truly deserved her real reputation. Others laughed, calling her a nobody. Sophia heard every word, and the humiliation crushed her. The nurse informed her chaperone that first aid was complete and she would recover soon. Sophia clenched her fist, her entire body trembling with rage. She muttered that she wasn't finished yet. Her chaperone sighed and tried to console her, saying she had done her best. He admitted that defeating that child in her current condition would be impossible. He then added that in a way, it was fortunate they encountered such an opponent now. Defeat, he said, was what made people stronger. As he continued speaking, the nurse suddenly interrupted him. His daughter was gone. He turned around just in time to see Sophia walking away, a knife clutched in her hand. She declared that she had never surrendered and had only been pushed back slightly. Mana began to gather around the blade as she insisted she was perfectly fine. She asked Yoram where she thought she was going when the fight wasn't over yet. Then Sophia vanished. In an instant, she reappeared behind Yoram and drove the knife straight into her back. Guy's expression darkened. Yoram cursed aloud in surprise as the blade pierced through her body and emerged from her chest. The arena fell silent. The force sent both of them flying out of the ring. They crashed to the ground together. Blood spilled freely, yet Yoram laughed, amused that her opponent still wanted to continue. Sophia didn't stop. She rushed forward to strike again, but Yoram dodged and grabbed her by the hair. Sophia cried out as her head was yanked back. Yoram pulled her fist back and calmly told her that she was dead. The punch landed squarely on Sophia's face. Yoram kept going. Blow after blow followed, blood spraying with each strike. The students panicked, shouting that someone needed to stop her. Then another punch sent Sophia flying into the audience, crashing into several students and knocking them from their seats. Sophia lay motionless, her body drenched in blood. Yoram picked up the knife and coldly stated that she wasn't finished yet. She raised her arm, ready to return the pain she had been given. That was when someone grabbed her wrist. Sophia's chaperone finally lost control and shouted for Yoram to stop at once. Yoram snapped back, telling him to let go of her. Before the situation could escalate further, Juan stepped in and ordered the mages to deploy an overlap space. The ongoing interview was immediately suspended as the mages activated the barrier, enclosing Yoram and Sophia's chaperone inside it. Yoram dropped the knife and raised her voice, demanding to know why he was only furious at her when Sophia was the one who stabbed first. She questioned whether that was the reason he thought she deserved to die. Was she supposed to stand still and let herself be killed instead? He argued back that with her level of skill, she could have ended things without going that far. Yoram scoffed at his logic, saying it made no sense to her, and coldly remarked that perhaps he should have raised his daughter better. Juan entered the overlap space and urged both of them to calm down. He informed Yoram that her instructor had gone to fetch her guardian and advised her to receive treatment first. Yoram refused, still burning with anger. Juan admitted that he understood how she felt, since he had witnessed everything himself, but he warned her that continuing like this would only make things worse. That only confused her. Juan explained carefully that if she pushed the situation any further, even he would be unable to protect her. Worse still, it could bring consequences upon her entire family. That finally snapped Yoram back to her senses. Leaning closer, Juan whispered that he was referring to the Yu family. He reminded her that she wasn't the only one entering the academy, and if her actions caused harm to her family, she would regret it deeply. He was about to ask her to step back and wait quietly for her guardian when a voice interrupted them, saying there was no need to wait. Jai stepped into the overlap space. He introduced himself calmly and told Juan to stop cornering an injured child. He suggested they step outside and talk properly. Both Juan and Yoram froze in shock. Neither of them knew how to respond at first. Yoram clenched her jaw, forcing herself to stay composed. Elsewhere, in a different building, Juan sat with the two guardians in his office. He served them a well-known oolong tea from Taiwan, said to calm the mind. Given that Jai had walked through the overlap space without hesitation, Juan could immediately tell he was a high-ranking individual, yet he had never heard of him or his household, so he quietly made a mental note to investigate later. Juan sighed and admitted he wasn't sure where to begin. He apologized for how things had unfolded, though he was relieved that neither child had suffered fatal injuries. He informed them that Yoram had already been discharged. Sophia lay in a hospital bed, wrapped in bandages, staring blankly at the ceiling. Her frustration was obvious. Juan continued, saying he didn't believe the incident needed to escalate further. They would all be seeing each other regularly at the Blue Dragon School, so it would be best to resolve things now. If the two sides could reach an agreement, he would personally handle the rest. Sophia's father stepped forward and apologized, admitting that his daughter had started the incident. He introduced himself as Mikhail and acknowledged that Sophia was still young and emotionally immature. He bowed his head and offered a sincere apology. Jai refused. The refusal instantly angered Mikhail. Jai calmly explained that there was no point in apologizing to him, since he wasn't the one harmed. He added that they were both guardians and asked Mikhail if he even knew who he was dealing with. Jai replied that they weren't equals and questioned whether this was how people from his background apologized. Mikhail's voice rose as he demanded whether Jai expected him to drag his injured daughter there to apologize. Jai answered without hesitation that yes, he did. That response pushed Mikhail over the edge. Juan quickly tried to intervene, but Jai continued, stating that his issue wasn't even about the girl. What bothered him was why Mikhail hadn't stopped her when she charged at another child with a knife. Mikhail shouted that everything had happened too suddenly. Jai dismissed it as a pathetic excuse. He asked if Mikhail wasn't ashamed to hide his incompetence behind his child. Enraged, Mikhail grabbed Jai by the collar and warned him that his patience had limits. His aura flared as he threatened to turn Jai into an enemy of Ril, sneering that Jai was from some insignificant family no one had ever heard of. Then Mikhail froze. His eyes widened as he saw Jai calmly holding the dagger, examining it and remarking how sharp it was. Jai added that things could have ended far worse if Yoram had been slightly less fortunate. Mikhail stammered, asking when the dagger had been taken. Jai casually replied that the sheath was too loose. That was why he hadn't noticed when a child picked it up. Mikhail couldn't believe it. His chi sense had been fully active the entire time. Jai then gave him a quiet warning to avoid empty alleyways. The dagger slammed into the table beside Mikhail's foot, cracking the surface instantly. Mikhail froze in place, his face pale, sweat pouring down as fear finally set in. With that, Jai turned and left. Mikhail remained seated, stiff and shaken. Juan mirrored his expression, only now realizing exactly who he had been dealing with. Outside the office, Jai found Yoram waiting. He asked if she was all right. She replied that it was only a scratch and joked that red dragons weren't easy to kill. He said he was glad to hear that. She hesitated before asking if he thought she had been wrong. She admitted that she had been questioning herself, wondering if she should have acted differently. It upset her, but part of her wondered if she should have been the bigger person. Jai told her she had done well. Then he added that next time she should kill her opponent somewhere without witnesses. She stared at him in shock as he walked away. After a moment, she let out a relieved sigh and smiled. Catching up to him, she warned him not to regret saying that later, because she would remember his words. He simply replied that it was fine. Jai then told her to pack her things as soon as she returned home. Confused, she asked if they were going somewhere. He explained that she would be moving into the lair. It took her a second to realize he meant the dorms, and she couldn't help but imagine that noisy little chick chirping with excitement. Suddenly, Juan called out to Jai and asked for a moment of his time. Jai thought the discussion was already over, but Juan said there was something else he wanted to discuss, and he wanted Yoram to hear it as well. Yoram groaned, already tired of lectures. Juan assured her this wasn't nagging. Instead, he was offering her an opportunity. He asked if she wanted to become the freshman representative of the Blue Dragon School. She would be the face of the academy, receive a full scholarship, powerful artifacts, and frequent media exposure. Jai remarked that the offer seemed sudden and questioned whether Juan had the authority to make such a decision alone. Juan smiled and replied that he didn't need to worry. He happened to be friends with Vice Principal Manam Jun. At those words, Jai's expression darkened. Won encouraged them to consider the offer seriously, saying chances like this were rare. It was only natural, he added, for him and the vice principal to be close, since both of them were demonic humans. Unlike superhumans who drew power from blessings, demonic humans embraced the void. Their nature leaned toward rage, bloodlust, and overwhelming desire. Because of them, the world had once stood on the brink of destruction. In Jai's first and second regressions, he had lost something precious to demonic humans. That was why, when Wan first appeared, Jai had imagined killing him countless times. Even now, he endured. Because Wan's death needed to carry far greater weight. Jai finally replied that he understood, but reminded Wan that the most important opinion belonged to the person involved. He was only her guardian. Wan agreed. The final decision was Yoram's. Placing a hand on her shoulder, he told her that from this day forward, the Blue Dragon School would begin to change. He told her that he wanted her to represent the school, especially at the end of your event. He spoke about shaping the future together and asked for her cooperation. She refused without hesitation. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. He asked her to repeat herself. She calmly confirmed that he had heard correctly. Then she turned to Jai and invited him home, reminding him that she still had packing to do. Yuen stood there in confusion. He couldn't understand why she had even come for the interview in the first place. She answered honestly, saying she'd been lying in bed. When he pressed further, she added that she got bored and wanted to fight. He forced a tight, awkward smile, completely thrown off by her answer. Then he noticed something outside the window and asked her to look down. A crowd had gathered below, people holding cameras and microphones. She asked if they were reporters. He explained that they were there to hear opinions about the incident, waiting for his statement. Whatever he said next would determine how her life at the lair would unfold. She didn't care. She simply said goodbye and walked away. Her attitude made him laugh, but as he watched them leave, his expression darkened. Under his breath, he muttered that he hoped she wouldn't regret her decision. The moment she stepped outside, the reporters swarmed her. Microphones were shoved toward her face as cameras flashed non-stop. She froze for a second, overwhelmed by sudden attention. One reporter informed her that footage of her interview was already going viral across Korean online communities. They accused her of deliberately going wild during the interview to revive her family's influence. The questions came faster and sharper, piling on without pause. Her irritation grew by the second. Jai stepped forward and told them to stop harassing an injured child. She stopped him. If they wanted an answer, she said she would give them one. She snatched a recorder from a reporter's hand and held it up, wearing a playful, confident grin. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, like she was about to cause trouble on purpose. Then she spoke a single word: sex. The scene abruptly shifted to a bright, sunny morning at the lair dorms. Gal was ecstatic. The dormitory was enormous. She ran up to the second floor, determined to claim the best room. Yoram immediately declared that the largest room was hers. Gal protested, stunned that they were really living there. She opened one of the doors and her eyes lit up. The room was perfect. A spacious bed, a massive window, the latest television, and sunlight pouring in. She claimed it on the spot. Yoram appeared on the balcony and said the room was ideal for smoking, so she wanted it. Gal argued back, reminding her that she'd already called dibs on the biggest room earlier. Yoram let her rant without interruption. Eventually, Gal gave up and surrendered the room. Yoram patted her head and called her a good girl. Nearby, Bomb was gently spraying water onto the blue dragon egg. She greeted the baby softly. Jai walked over and asked why she was doing that. Bomb explained that blue dragons loved water. When the time came, the egg's polymorph was automatically released, meaning it could no longer remain as a necklace. Bomb mentioned that the entire lair had been talking about Yoram lately. Jai suspected the interview had become a serious issue. He pulled up the footage on his smartwatch. The moment Yoram said that word, Bomb quickly covered the egg and told the blue dragon not to listen. Yura asked what was so bad about it. Gal, now curious, asked what the word even meant. Yoram smiled slowly and asked if she wanted to know. Gal hesitated, then nodded. Yoram confirmed she knew and declared it was time for their little chick to learn about the birds and the bees. Gal immediately regretted her curiosity. She said her mother had told her that there was no need to know too much. Yoram only teased her harder, leaning in with a crazed grin, calling her babe and saying she had no right to refuse. Gal backed away, covering her ears and yelling that she didn't want to hear it. Yoram grabbed her wrists and continued anyway. Gal desperately looked to Jai for help, but he calmly chose not to interfere. At that exact moment, Bomb quietly placed headphones over the egg so it wouldn't hear any of the conversation. The next morning, Yoram was still asleep when someone sprinted up the stairs. Gal burst into her room, shouting that there was a problem. Yoram groaned and sat up, still half asleep. She asked what it was. Gall demanded to know what she had been doing all night. Yoram grinned and casually said she had been watching porn. Gall was struck speechless. Then she said the problem was more important than that. Yoram replied that it better be, or someone was going to die. That was when she noticed everyone gathered in the room. Bomb stepped forward and told her that Ghoul was about to hatch. A crack had already formed. They all watched in silence as a new life began to emerge. For Jai, the sight stirred a memory he had long buried. The last time he had witnessed a birth like this, it had ended in tragedy. A mother had begged him to save her child, but the world was already collapsing. The environment was poisoned, the hospital destroyed, and the child died the moment it was born. He had been left staring at a lifeless body in his hands. He never wanted to remember that again. Yoram noticed his distant expression and softly muttered a single sign of understanding. Then a claw broke through the shell, followed by wings, and finally a small head emerged. Bomb congratulated the newborn as they named her Gule. They wrapped her in cloth and gently cleaned her. Jai noticed how natural Bomb looked and asked where she had learned to do that. She explained that their mother used to care for them the same way, though dragons were normally cleaned by licking. Bomb asked if Jai wanted to hold her. He declined. Gall immediately volunteered. Bomb handed the baby over carefully, warning her that the skin was still fragile. Gall cuddled the dragon and sighed, saying it was incredibly healing. Then she looked at Yoram. She knew Yoram wanted to hold her too. Yoram denied it outright. Gall shoved the baby into her arms anyway. Yoram panicked, asking if she'd lost her mind. Bomb reminded her to be gentle. Ghoul yawned softly. Yoram froze, staring at the tiny creature in her hands. Gall smirked, satisfied that Yoram finally understood what she meant earlier. Yoram then suggested that Jai should try holding her too. Gall agreed, saying Ghoul would be sad otherwise. Yoram teased him for pretending not to care and threatened to throw the baby at him. If anything happened, she said, it would be his fault. Gall panicked, thinking she might actually do it. With a devilish grin, Yoram declared that ever since she moved into that house, she had only one goal, and that was to see Jai panic. Gall broke into a cold sweat as Yoram lifted the baby. Before she could throw her, Jai calmly took the baby from her arms. Gall let out a huge sigh of relief. Yoram pouted and complained that he was no fun. Gall snapped back that Yoram was the abnormal one. Bomb smiled and suggested that since the baby was already in his arms, he should try patting her. He glanced at her and slowly moved his hand, asking quietly if he was doing it right. A sudden flash of light followed. He turned toward Ga and asked what she was doing. She answered casually that she had taken a picture because moments like this were rare, and she wanted to make a habit of capturing them. Bomb suggested they take a group photo together. She pulled out a rose, which made everyone question what it was for. With a playful wink, she said it was just for the photo. No one understood what she meant until she tucked the rose behind Jai's ear and placed a blue flower on Guol. Jai frowned slightly as he adjusted Guol to face forward. Bomb thought it looked nice, while Yoram could tell that Jai clearly didn't agree. Gale took the photo, commenting that they both looked good. Jai urged them to hurry. Yoram found the whole thing unbearably cringy and wanted no part in it, but Bomb refused to let it go. Gale counted to 3 and snapped the picture. The photo turned out perfectly. Gale posed with a cheerful peace sign. Bomb smiled softly beside her, and behind them stood Yoram and Jai. Yoram looked unimpressed as always, while Jai calmly held Gula, who was drinking milk from her bottle as if nothing unusual was happening. When someone asked if they were ready, Jai turned to Bomb and asked what she was planning next. Bomb explained that since the semester hadn't started yet, she wanted to teach Gall how to polymorph using magic transfer. Magic transfer involved flowing mana into another person to teach them a spell. The one receiving the spell paid no price, but the one teaching it lost a portion of their lifespan. Jai asked if she was sure. Bomb replied that Gall couldn't exactly go outside looking like that forever. At the place where Bomb, Yoram, and Jael had learned polymorph, Gall hadn't learned anything at all. Dragons grew quickly, and Bomb wanted her to experience as many fun things as possible before she got bigger. Jai told her to let him know if she needed help. Bomb hesitated, then admitted she had a favor to ask. She wanted him to stay beside her during the transfer. He agreed immediately. She told him he was sitting too far away and urged him to come closer. At first, he didn't see the need, but she insisted that if she got exhausted and dropped Gall, he needed to be close enough to catch her. She added that if Gall hit the table and got hurt, she'd never forgive herself. With a sigh, Jai moved closer and sat beside her. Their arms brushed. Bomb flushed and muttered that it was hard. When he asked what she meant, she panicked and claimed the couch was uncomfortable. Clearing her throat, she finally began the transfer. A few days later, it was over. Bomb was completely drained. Jai told her she had done well, and she replied that he had done great too. Ghoul patted Bomb's head with her tiny dragon claws. Bomb staggered toward her room, telling them she would rest. She reminded Jai not to forget to feed Ya and make her burp, and said they could wake her if anything happened. Suddenly, her feet lifted off the ground. Jai carried her in his arms, offering to take her to her room. Her face turned red as she admitted it was embarrassing to be carried like that. Jai remarked that she still had enough energy to joke around. She worried aloud that she might be too heavy, but he told her she was light. She hadn't expected something so gentle from him. She soon fell asleep. Jai quietly left the room and closed the door behind him. Then he felt it, a familiar presence. A blue glow filled the living room, and a small blue-haired girl appeared. The process was complete. She looked tiny. Jai felt overwhelmed and greeted her softly. Elsewhere, at the Lair District Police Station, Yujate's shadow clone crossed the street with two officers. They talked about how criminals the entire superhuman investigation team had failed to catch for months were all captured by Yujate alone in just a few days. The police chief was practically euphoric. One officer offered to treat them to food. Wari immediately realized it would be paid with the company card and laughed. He clarified that the offer was for a second round, but the mood shifted when Yujate said he had business to attend to and would be leaving early. The team leader complained that he always left early now and asked if something was going on. Wari added that Yujate had been going straight home after work lately, which seemed suspicious. They asked if he had a girlfriend. Yujate denied it and left. The team leader shouted after him, saying he'd treat him better if that was the issue. Wari, however, lingered on the words that he didn't have a girlfriend. On the street, a woman chatted with her friend through a hologram projected from her watch. As she passed by, Yujate's clone copied her appearance perfectly. This shadow, once a power used by a Grand Duke of the Demon World to influence distant territories, now acted in Yujate's place after he had taken that power for himself. The clone, now in female form, met Yujate in the park and bowed, asking why she had been summoned. Then she noticed something strapped to his chest and asked what it was. Yujate replied that it was Ghoul, and they had just returned from getting a haircut. Ghoul had polymorphed into a human form and was resting quietly against him. An elderly couple nearby smiled warmly, assuming Yujate and the woman were a young couple with a well-behaved baby. The clone offered to hold Ghoul, but Ghoul stared back suspiciously, confusing the clone. Yujate explained that even if she wasn't held, she could walk on her own. The clone asked why he had brought Ghoul out and whether the others weren't home. Bomb was on bed rest due to the side effects of magic transfer, and the other two weren't ready for responsibility yet. Yujate asked what the clone really wanted to say. The clone hesitated, then admitted it was beginning to question its mission. Those who had once owned it never wanted a quiet, ordinary life. They had always used it for meaningful purposes, killing targets or demonstrating authority. But Yujate was using it to fill the gaps in everyday life, and that confused it. It apologized for speaking out of turn. Yujate understood. In the end, the clone was a sentient being. He told it that there was something important it would need to do soon. Until then, it should keep going to work. He also mentioned that its teammates wanted to grab a drink with it and suggested it go along. Soon enough, it wouldn't be able to see them anymore. The clone understood and quietly walked away. Jai stood still, watching until it disappeared from sight. That was when he heard a soft voice nearby. A mother was speaking to her child, saying she didn't expect her daughter to love the teddy bear that much. The little girl was clutching the stuffed toy tightly, unwilling to let it go. Ghoul watched them quietly. The child lifted the teddy bear into the air, and Ghoul's eyes immediately lit up. They sparkled with pure curiosity. Jai noticed it and gently asked if she wanted one too. Without hesitation, he reached into the shallowest layer of the void, an S-rank space, and pulled something out. A blue teddy bear appeared in his hand. It was different from the one the child was holding. He handed it to her. Ghoul froze. She stared at it in complete awe, as if she couldn't believe it was real. She didn't move at all. Jai asked softly if she liked it. Instead of answering, she placed the teddy bear down and slowly walked toward him. Jai lifted her into his arms and asked if she wanted more. He explained that he didn't have any others at the moment. She pouted. Then, with her tiny hands, she grabbed her own cheeks and leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his. Jai stiffened in surprise. For a moment, he didn't understand why she did that. Then it hit him. Bomb had done the same thing during the mana transference. Ghoul must have learned that it was a form of affection. That simple gesture triggered something deep inside him. Memories flooded his mind. The image of someone he knew, nailed to a cross. The rage that consumed him as he slaughtered monsters on the battlefield. The destruction of Earth at the hands of dragons. And finally, the moment time itself was turned back. Gaul was staring at him. She had seen it, the shift in his expression, but Jai only smiled at her. It was a rare moment. The depressed regressor was slowly healing. Gaul took his hand, and in her other hand, she held the teddy bear. She began humming softly as they walked together. Jai suddenly felt the air shift. Someone was already on their way. A second later, Gile appeared, waving cheerfully. He asked where she had been. She hugged Gaul tightly, still holding the teddy bear. Gaul explained that she had gone to the shopping district for a while. Guy blinked when Gaul pressed her forehead against hers. Then she smiled in understanding. Gaul was happy because she had received a gift from Mr. Jai asked if she could read her mind. She shook her head and explained that dragons could share their emotions and thoughts when they touched skin to skin. Touching foreheads worked best. Simply put, it was how dragons expressed affection. Jai admitted he didn't know that. Gaily teased him, saying she never expected there would be something he didn't know. Jai noticed the case behind her and asked what it was. She pulled out a guitar. She said she bought it so she could express her soul without needing skin contact. With a grin, she asked if she looked like a musician now. Then she wildly strummed the strings, declaring she would give it her all. Jai's expression darkened. He remembered her despair, the drinking, the injections, the blood. The moment she broke her guitar, he felt a sharp pang of guilt. She looked at him with empty eyes. Gaul complained that her fingers hurt. Jai told her not to push herself too hard. She asked why she shouldn't. He explained that he didn't want her to overextend herself. She answered that she wanted to give everything she had. He changed the subject and asked if Bomb was awake. She wasn't. She still had a slight fever. It couldn't be helped. She had overworked herself during the mana transference. He then asked about Yoriam. Apparently, she had locked herself in her room, completely absorbed in dramas. Gaul commented that she had never seen her focus on anything other than fighting. Jai muttered that it was better than her causing trouble outside. They arrived home. Gaia reminded Gaul to wash her hands. Jai's expression suddenly turned cold. Gael didn't notice. He placed a firm hand on her shoulder and in a serious tone, told her to take Ghoul to her room immediately. They were to stay there until he said otherwise. She was about to ask why, but the look on his face stopped her. She obeyed. She invited Ghoul to read a book with her and headed upstairs. Jai watched them disappear, then turned back toward the door. He opened it. His face was calm, but his eyes were filled with fury. 3 figures stood inside, clad in mechanical suits. The green one was kneeling beside Bomb. They demanded to know who had done this to the green dragon. They assumed it was him. Guardians. Dragons use subjugation magic to bind useful monsters and humans, turning them into knights and slaves to protect the lair. Among them were elite guardians, bodyguards assigned to protect hatchlings during outings. Bomb was still unconscious. Jai realized they had used sleeping magic on her. One guardian stomped forward and demanded an explanation. Jai calmly suggested that they introduce themselves first, considering they were inside someone else's home. The guardian scoffed. He said only the strong had the right to ask questions. They activated Dark Clarity, a high-level defensive barrier. They told him this was his final chance. Jai explained that a blue dragon had been born. While teaching her polymorph, the green dragon had overworked herself and was now on bed rest. They demanded to know who he was. He replied simply that he was their guardian. They laughed. They asked if he even understood who he was claiming to protect. He did. That led him to ask a question of his own. How had they arrived so quickly? As far as he knew, all guardians had been scattered across distant dimensions. They froze. Realizing he knew too much, they drew their swords. They introduced themselves as guardians of the children and keepers of causality's history. They acknowledged that he had cared for the hatchlings in their place. But to them, he was far too distant from justice. They were certain he would bring disaster if left alive. Jai suggested talking it out. They refused. They charged, promising it would be painless. Jai drew his sword and blocked the strike effortlessly. The guardian's eyes widened. That was a sword of stallion, yet it had been stopped like nothing. Jai was using the formless sword, rank SS. In a single motion, he severed the guardian's arm. The fallen guardian shouted that it was disgraceful to be defeated in one strike. The others vowed to kill him. One warned them to stop. The human was far stronger than expected. It was too late. Steel flashed. The guardians fell one by one. The barrier shattered. Jai stood before the last conscious guardian. Only then did the guardian understand what had felt wrong from the beginning. A mere human shouldn't know their secrets. A mere human shouldn't be watching over hatchlings. Regret filled him. He should have realized sooner. The man standing in front of him was a transcendent being. Someone who should never be interfered with. Jai stared at him for a moment, then let out a quiet sigh. He released his sword and reminded him that this was exactly why he had suggested talking things through first. The guardian asked if Jai ruled the entire world. Instead of answering directly, Jai asked something else. How had they all survived when there should have been instability in the dimension? The guardians explained that it was because of a twisted dimension. Their lord had opened a path connecting the nest to that world, but for reasons unknown, the dimension warped and threw them outside the boundary. Jai wanted to know more about this twisted dimension, but the guardian admitted that even they didn't fully understand it. Their lord had only mentioned something called the Horizon of Providence. According to him, other dimensions naturally twisted around it. That explanation unsettled Jai. In his previous runs, nothing like this had ever been mentioned. The Horizon of Providence was a completely unfamiliar concept, and now that he thought about it, this timeline itself felt different. This was the first time the Green Dragon's guardians had ever come looking for him. He asked what the Horizon of Providence had to do with them finding this place. Did it help them? By then, the other guardians had regained consciousness. The guardian explained that a will beyond the Horizon of Providence had guided them. They couldn't see it, but they could feel it. A presence that showed them the path to follow. By obeying that guidance, they gathered the other guardians and eventually found the hatchlings. Jai needed to confirm one thing. He grabbed the guardian by the helmet and forced him to look into his eyes. Then he activated the Scales of Balance, rank SS, one of the 3 authorities he had taken from the Grand Duke. An eye that discerned truth and lies, good and evil, likes and dislikes. The guardian was telling the truth. Jai dealt with anything that could threaten the world. He constantly inspected and rechecked dimensions, preparing for unknown variables. That was why this bothered him so much. Something unfamiliar was emerging again. The guardian added that the will beyond the horizon felt dissatisfied, almost as if it were cursing something. Jai suspected the reason immediately. It was because of the core created using the Green Dragon's power. He reached out and grabbed the guardian's chest. His fingers crushed through the armor, making the guardian groan. Jai tore the plating away and froze at what he saw. At that moment, the authority Grand Clock X reacted. It identified a twisted flow of time. It began searching for elements hostile to Jai, rejecting those that had deviated from the world's timeline. Anything that originated outside the timeline or possessed its own independent timeline was marked as an enemy and subjected to investigation. Jai realized something unsettling. The authority that had remained dormant, activating only during regression, had begun to interfere on its own. There was nothing he could do. All he could do was wait. The guardians were stunned as the strange light condensed into the shape of a clock, but soon relief washed over them. The anomaly seemed resolved. Jai asked what they planned to do next. He was already watching over the hatchlings. There was no role left for them. The subjugation magic should have been dispelled due to the dimensional distortion, so he questioned whether there was any reason for them to stay. They asked if he was really letting them go. He didn't care, as long as they caused no trouble. They agreed to leave, all of them, except one. Jai asked if he wasn't going. The guardian replied that he couldn't. He was the guardian of history and causality. Jai punched him. Then he asked again. The answer didn't change. Jai released an overwhelming pressure and warned him that this was the last time he would ask. Even trembling in fear, the guardian still refused. Another guardian spoke up, explaining that no matter how many times Jai asked, that man would never leave. By nature, he was dull, a fool who couldn't seize freedom even when it was handed to him. Jai sighed. He had no choice but to accept it. He declared that the man was fit to be a guardian. Then he drew his sword. In a single slash, he beheaded the others. Everyone was dead except that foolish guardian. The survivor asked if this was some kind of test. Jai said no. He had simply realized that this guardian was different. He asked why he was so devoted to protecting the Green Dragon. The guardian answered honestly. His loyalty had never faded. Jai acknowledged his loyalty, but reminded him that the Green Dragon was now under his protection. Since he was weaker, Jai asked what he could even do as a guardian. The man had no answer. Jai thought for a moment. Then he gave him a role. He introduced him to the girls as the new janitor he had hired. The guardian was speechless. He never imagined his career would change so fast.